Summer, I'm joined by Mark and Tel from the Devil's Terrace. Obviously, we've had a very disappointing result yesterday with the 0-0 draw with Middlesbrough leading to us losing on penalties, but we'll just jump straight into it with the obvious elephant in the room with Rooney once again underperforming. I know I'm obviously always given the stick of being a Rooney hater, so to say, and Tel's obviously always given the Rooney optimist role. But we'll go to Mark first before we go to Tel. What did you make of Rooney's performance when he came on at half-time yesterday? And do you think he is finished ultimately? And do you think he will start against Palace? Jump straight into it.
I know we're going to try and keep these into short sound bites. I did my rant last night. I think I'm the middle ground really, because you'll touch on your bit about Rooney, I'm sure, Alex, and I sort of think you're right in a way, and I know Tel backs Rooney, and in another way I think he's right as well for that. I've sat on the fence until about 3 weeks ago before the Everton game. I do think it needs dropping, and that's not a negative thing. I think it needs dropping because I think it would do him good. A lot of players respond to being dropped. I think it would hurt Rooney's pride, and I do think that needs to happen. Why it's not happening, I don't know. Just unbelievably poor at the moment. Even Scholes said that he's making the runs. It's just the way we're playing. Personally, he's just not. I don't think he's had a good game under Louis van Gaal in 12 months. Name me a game other than Club Bruges. His scoring statistics are worse than Falcao. But away from all that lot, I judge a player on what I look at them. And we've almost forgotten that he was captain. He's just not the Wayne Rooney I know and like. And I do question whether it is decline and whether he can come back. I'm not saying he is finished, but I do question it, yeah.
Yeah, just first off, Mark, you need to change the camera.
I know. Oh, well.
Okay, but anyway, before going to my opinion on it all, I'll give it over to Tel. You've previously, in the past, been a big Rooney supporter, but last night you seem to have changed your views on it a bit. What have you made of Rooney's performances, and have you finally felt that he is past it, or do you still see that there is hope for him?
I think at 30 years old, adapting and changing your game is massively necessary. Paul Scholes has come out, and as some people would call it, is defending his mate, or ex-teammate as it were. But 18 months ago, when he himself was the first person that I can remember publicly stating that Rooney could be past it, everybody took those words as gospel as his form dipped. He does deserve to be dropped. I don't want to see him in the starting lineup against Crystal Palace for two reasons. One, I think he's holding the team back right now in the positions that Van Gaal is playing him in. And secondly, I think there's a bigger issue at Manchester United with our style of play. Bringing a 19-year-old who's been fantastic for us in as our central striker is not the answer to all of our problems. And if Rooney isn't in the team, hopefully that will start to highlight this fact, the bigger issue to more Manchester United fans, rather than Rooney being the pure and utter scapegoat of everything that goes wrong currently, although he should be dropped right now.
I do see your point with him kind of being a scapegoat. At the same time, I think ultimately, I saw a post today by someone, I can't remember who it is, linking all the goals today under Van Gaal, from Van Persie's goals, Rooney's goals, Falcao's goals, Wilson's goals. But I think at the same time, you have to look at it in the grand scheme of things. Rooney is very late into his career. RVP is very late into his career. Falcao, the injuries absolutely ruined him. RVP has just been since Fergie left, he just isn't the same player. But I point to the fact of Anthony Martial, and I know we have said that we've joked about it and stuff. The fact that he doesn't speak English could be why he is flourishing so much. But if you look at his goal-to-game ratio, he's currently on 10 games played, 5 goals scored. But I think it may be a bit delusional, it may be a bit biased, but I think, honestly, if he was played up front for all those games, I think he'd be on at least 7 goals in that time. And I know he is one of those players that I said last season, I kept on trying to say, oh yeah, we need someone that can create a bit of magic out of nowhere, like Suarez. Obviously, I'm not saying it's anywhere near Suarez's level, but the way we play, we just need someone to create something out of nothing. But people are saying it's down to the play style. I don't know what you make of this, Mark, but I personally when I look at him with England, it's a different play style to United, and I don't necessarily think it is completely down to the play style. His first touch is gone. I think he takes too long on the ball. I just don't think it is a play style matter. Do you?
Well, I was watching the match last night, and my grand's been suffering with insomnia for the last couple of months, but she was fast asleep by halfway through the second half last night. So at least watching United's one good thing. But I think with Rooney, the playing style definitely, but I'm not going to give him that excuse. And I know there's a lot of people who support Rooney, and I know there's a lot of people on Twitter now saying, "Go Tal, stick up for Rooney." I'm not sticking up for Rooney. People know I've stuck up for Rooney, and I want to throw this back to Tal anyway, but because there's lots of facets about where you can go, about where you are with Rooney. Some people say it's his syrup. Since he's had that on his head, he's not been able to do any good. Some people say it's fatherhood. Some people say it's captaincy. I've said for a long time I think he'd be better without the captaincy. Rooney was very good when he played on the edge. He's lost his day. He's lost that aggression. But I'm not going to make any excuses for him. I know we're going to touch on Carrick, which appalls me. But when it comes to Rooney, there's something missing. There's something missing, and I think he is a victim of the fact that he's on £300,000 a week. He's got a £56 million contract ahead of him. He's getting picked every week, but a lot of it is out of his control. Leo Van Gaal picks him. David Moyes gave him the contract, and Woodward. But I won't defend him on this. There's something wrong with him. Yes, the style of play is not great. We're going to touch on that in a minute, but there's not enough from Wayne. He's not the Wayne Rooney we know. And all I want to just say before we go back to Tel, when we find out what Tel thinks the problem is that Alan Shearer, Thierry Henry were Premier League legends. So is Wayne Rooney. But you can't have Alan Shearer, Thierry Henry up front for Manchester United now. And if Rooney is past it, sentiment, respect, or whatever, he's got to go. I'm not saying he is, but if he is, he's got to go.
One thing that I found amazing with it all is that maybe it's just naivety on my part, but I didn't realise with Alan Shearer they did this stat on Sky Sports the other day, like going on about how Rooney is the highest scoring 30-year-old since like in Premier League history. And then if you look at it in terms of Alan Shearer, then so past then he's so far ahead of every single one else. I know Rooney's now joint. Is he with Andy Cole? Joint second top goal scorer. And Alan Shearer went on to score, like, 80 more goals. And it's just, I'm starting to be of the belief, I don't know how you feel about this, Tal, but I'm starting to, it always seemed like a long given that Rooney would break the all-time England record, which he did. But I'm starting to think he might not actually break the all-time United record. And if he does, then it's going to come in the Champions League against, teams like Bruges, if he gets that chance. But we've seen in the past, Van Gaal is ruthless. Everyone thought that Robin van Persie would be the teacher's pet, and then he got rid of him. So Rooney's 20-something goals off the all-time United record, but I'm starting to think he might not even break that. But I don't know how you feel about that, Tal.
Look, I think that the reason that Bobby Charlton's England and Manchester United records have stood for 40-odd years is because they're extremely difficult to achieve. We saw probably the best natural goal scorer I've ever seen in Ruud van Nistelrooy. I was just leaving school as he was really hitting his pomp. It didn't last, although his goal scoring was brilliant, it didn't last for a prolonged period of time. And Rooney has been around since he was sort of 15, 16. So there is the possibility that he's burnt out. The problem I have with that, people tend to talk about his first touch and his passing ability. If you watch legends play football that have been retired 20 years, they still have their touch and passing ability. It's their legs that go. So I don't necessarily attribute that aspect. I put that down to confidence in the way he's feeling as an individual right now. Maybe it's because he's noticing himself. I certainly know now that I'm just about to turn 30. You know, I bend down to pick up a remote, or I play with my son in the garden, and suddenly I don't feel like I did when I was 25. Maybe Rooney's got to adapt the way he plays. And I don't think playing as a lone striker that's massively isolated is something that he's able to do at 30. And you touched on Martial. Now, again, he can do it, but he's doing things that Rooney's never been able to do. Rooney never had his pace. He's never had his skill and trickery. If that's the type of player we need there, we can take Wayne Rooney at 18, 19, 21, 25. He still wouldn't be doing what Martial was doing for us now. He's never done it. So it's almost a nonsense to compare him to Martial when they're different players. But right now, there is definitely, Mark's right. You're both right. There is something wrong with him in terms of the way he's playing football. I just think a little bit of time out of the limelight will help him. It might make a few United fans sort of slow their roll a little bit and calm down, because I think some of them are they think I'm obsessed with Wayne Rooney, and that much is true. But that's mainly defending people that challenge his honour as a club legend over the way he's playing on the pitch. It's just looking for balance, and I don't think the criticism is balanced across the 11 players on the field at the minute, which isn't quite right.
Yeah, that's all fair points. And another person that came in under criticism after last night, I know Mark gave him his after-match review an 8 out of 10, and uh, he said that he was the man of the match. I have my own opinion on that. I don't necessarily think he was the man of the match, but I don't think he actually played that terrible, to be fair. But I think in terms of last season, he hasn't been as good as he is by his standards. Is Carrick. But what did you make of? Not necessarily because I know how you feel about him after last night, Mark. But what have you made of Carrick's season so far? Not just like you can include yesterday in it, but what as in a season so far? What have you made of him?
I mean, I don't need to. I'll just broad stroke it because, I mean, Carrick hasn't been great this season by any means, and he's got a worrying injury problem that he's had for the last 18 months. But as I said today on Twitter when I was arguing with all these people who were giving him 4 out of 10, saying he's finished, he's rubbish, it's just ridiculous. And there's always been this problem nationally with Carrick. I don't, you know, it is the United Stand, it is your channel, it's your opinion, but I'm not going to agree with it. Carrick you're a football peasant if you don't understand Michael Carrick, and what I mean is, like, you don't understand football, basically. He's not Marmite. You either get it or you don't get it. You just don't get it if you don't appreciate him. Last night he was easily one of man of the match, just because he wasn't running past 4 players and, you know, hitting it on the volley in the top corner and slide tackling, which Michael Carrick never does. People think he had a bad game. He was playing passes forward. He was the only midfielder because Fellaini was bombing on, and so was Pereira, and so was Rooney. He was up against 2 players. He was running the midfield. His positional sense was spot on. He did get overrun a bit, but he always wanted the ball. I would argue a 7, but for people to say a 4 or a 3 or whatever, and what I quickly would say about Carrick, because I know Tell will have something to say as well, is no Carrick, no Champions League. It's as simple as that last season. And somebody said he only played 3/4 of the season. That's rubbish. I think he played about a third. But if you look at the points we got when he played, no Carrick, no Champions League football. He does deserve a lot more respect than Rooney because Rooney didn't really do much last season. Carrick has and always will. I mean, I'm reading a book about 2007 at the moment. He's been around a long time, deserves a lot of respect. Probably isn't a first-team player anymore, but he will have a massive part to play this season. And I find the criticism of him, some people very eager. I agree with Kev that some of the criticism Rooney's had is wrong and vile, and a lot of people are very eager to throw Carrick in there for missing a penalty. We're English, come on, we miss penalties.
In terms of no Champions League, no Carrick, I think that is absolutely indisputable. I very, very much challenge anyone to try to argue that point of what you just said, because honestly, I think without Carrick last season, and it may be a bit ridiculous to say, but I think even 6th place would have been a bit of a push. If you only have to look at our win-loss ratio with Carrick and without, we lost 1 game, I think, the entirety of last season, and it was, ironically, the 1 game we lost was at home to Southampton when a certain Morgan Schneiderlin got man of the match. So that's all. But I personally wasn't of the opinion that he was man of the match yesterday. I think it's kind of hard because I thought our youngsters kind of got hung out to dry. I think I know Memphis, and I know I'm a big fan of him. He didn't have the best of games, but I thought Pereira played well. I thought Lingard played well. But I think that people, in the grand scheme of things, will, because we lost, they will forget it, and that they'll tie everyone with the same brush about it all. But what did you make of Carrick's performance this season and yesterday, Tel? Do you think he's passed it, or do you think, like, in my opinion, I think we've kind of been spoiled by seeing Schneiderlin and Schweinsteiger, that obviously, maybe not at Carrick at 31, but Carrick currently, I think Schweinsteiger is kind of a tier above him. Then do you think we've been spoiled for choice now? But he still, obviously, in my opinion, has a big part to play.
You know, yesterday I didn't feel he had a great game. I don't think he was as commanding. I don't think the tempo of the game was controlled enough by him. However, for me, that's 1 game. He's not playing as much football as he would like, but he's also had a few knocks and niggles as well, and there's been a lot of rotation in the middle. What Michael Carrick has required for a number of years and didn't have yesterday, as an example, is a Schneiderlin type player next. He needs somebody with strength, with grit next to him to enable the way in which he plays. He's a Rolls Royce, but what he needs next to him is a Land Rover, someone who's going to do all the hard, gritty work to enable him to flourish. But I think people calling, just even on the comments on this video now, and generally a fraud and he's past it. These are the same people that are saying that Memphis is rubbish after 2 months. They're the same individuals. I'm telling you now, if Martial goes 3 months without scoring a goal, they'll turn on him. If we win 20 games on the bounce, The manager's a legend. We lose 2 on the bounce. He doesn't understand Manchester United. What stresses me out is that we are becoming more and more like Liverpool and Arsenal fans week in, week out. And the most embarrassing part is for 20 years we bemoan these clubs because we were so fortunate to have Sir Alex Ferguson, so much continuity, so much consistency. Now that's gone. People are just losing their minds. And it's, great example, Rooney versus City. When I finished watching the game, I felt he did okay. When I rewatched the game back, I was like, oh, actually, I got that wrong. He was a lot worse than I thought. But no one lost their minds until that dude tweeted out his stats. Once people saw the stats, oh my God, Rooney was terrible. If we stop reading stats and statistics, because 90% of them are nonsense, fans would calm down a little bit. But the fans right now are an absolute embarrassment to the crest and the club. Everyone's a fraud if they don't have a great game. If they like the person, what's this new word youngsters are saying? If you're a fanboy of a certain individual, you back them up. So right now, no matter, Martial could miss an open goal. No one said a bad word about him because they love him right now. But let's see what happens in 3 months if he hasn't scored another goal. Hope it doesn't happen because I rate the kid. But these Manchester United fans are an embarrassment to the club.
Yeah, to be fair, that is quite a fair point because I was talking on WhatsApp today, raging to my friends who support Chelsea and West Ham, and I was talking about that if Fergie would have had this team, this current team, that I'm like, he would comfortably win the league. And they're like, you honestly can't keep talking about Fergie this, Fergie that, because Fergie was a once in a lifetime and Fergie isn't here anymore, so you can't expect every manager to be like Fergie. But another player that's come completely under criticism, and I know people in the comment section have been saying it, and on Twitter he was getting absolutely abused yesterday, and he's someone who I have on the back of this shirt that I'm wearing right now is Memphis. So what have you made of his performance, not only yesterday, because I think we've made a big point of this all season about with Rooney, that the main thing that people get on my back is that, oh, I always slate Rooney. But the reason I slate him over other people is because when other people like Darmian, Mata, Memphis have played bad, they've been dropped, whereas Rooney hasn't. Whereas Memphis got his chance yesterday and he didn't really come out and impress. But what did you make of him, Mark? Not only yesterday, but as the season as a whole.
I'm gonna be really quick on Memphis. I just want to throw some other things in. Carrick fan has worried me on the live comment box. He said he didn't see the Carrick miss penalty. He's going to watch it back with a box of tissues. Knowing Carrick fan, that doesn't mean he's going to cry. He's not going to cry. He's not going to cry. But
there's going to be some white sticky love piss. That's what that's going to be.
And just on what Tel was saying there about these fans being embarrassment, I know where he's going with the Arsenal fan thing. I've said it as well. But I would say as well is we do get a lot of people on this channel who are anti-Louis van Gaal. I've got no problem with that because they come on here and they actually give a reason for it. They talk about his history, etc., etc. If you've got a reason, that's fine. It's the anti-Carrick thing and then not listening to what other people are saying. If you can come back with a good argument, always going to listen. And thirdly, I joked about Alex last season, Di Maria, Falcao on the back of his shirt. Don't get Martial, don't get Memphis. He did it. Memphis is shit, and Martial's been moved out to the wing. I tell you what, it's Halloween. If you see him, chuck an egg at his head because he deserves it. But quickly on Memphis, I think Memphis will come good. Terrible last night. Really, it's a shame that his confidence has been shot so much that even he's nowhere near the first team. His opportunity in what is a second-string side in the League Cup against the Championship team, really 5 out of 10 is generous for him. Really poor. Is the number 7 shirt? I don't know. Is that a problem? Is his confidence shot? He looked like his confidence was shot yesterday. But I'm not like everybody else who seems to think he's going to be a flop and Nani's better. I did watch him playing for Holland when he played well. I still think he's got it in him. But I think we're going to come on to Louis van Gaal next and then the Palace thing, and we need to move quick because we've only got 12 minutes. But I think he's suffering because of Louis van Gaal and his tactics on taking too long to put the ball in the box and not letting players express themselves.
I think with Memphis, he isn't like. I think if you look at the goals he scored, in terms of the quality of goals he scored, they've been absolutely brilliant. But you can say about the terms of opposition that he's against. But what have you made of Memphis so far? Tel, do you still see that there's hope, or are you one of these people that are like throwing him under the bus? I don't think you will be. Are you?
No, look, I'm going to back a player who's 21, moved countries. Of course, there's pressure. Sometimes for players. You know, if Martial hadn't scored that goal against Liverpool, who knows where he'd be right now. There's been a couple of times where Memphis has almost put balls in the back of the net and it hasn't quite come off for him post. You know, against Southampton, he hit the post at the end of that great run. Massa got all the credit. It was almost Memphis that did it. It's inches and margins, really. And I think at 21, just joined Manchester United. Anyone who's writing him off now literally needs to go soak their head in a bowl of water for about 20 minutes until their body stops wriggling. Bit harsh, but I mean it.
Sorry, I was clicking that. Yeah, I completely agree. Like I said, the quality of goals he scored, but like you said about with the Southampton goal, it's completely true. I think since then he just doesn't seem to be doing stuff like that. I think the main thing is, and when we just before we signed him, and then I used to watch him for Holland compared to now, and he's a completely different player again. I think his confidence is just absolutely shot. Like, it might have been a big reality check coming from the Eredivisie coming to Premier League. And he's going to take time to adapt. No one comes in, hits the ground running. I know Anthony Martial did, but the majority of people do not come in at that age and be that good. And he's just like a rare freak occurrence. But obviously, yesterday it wasn't the greatest of games. We made 9 changes, so you can't really necessarily take it into effect. But in the grand scheme of things, I was listening to TalkSport earlier, and they were saying that Manchester United are in crisis. But then, at the same time, we're 2 points off the top of the table. What have you made about overall play this season, Mark? Like, Paul Scholes criticised the team, saying that we're boring to watch. And I know I say this all the time on the show about how last season we created less chances than QPR, which we did. I don't know how many chances we've created this season, but it seems that we're literally the most efficient team in the entire league because we get about 3 shots a game and we seem to score all 3.
Yeah, just official news. Carrick fans changed his name to the Kleenex fan. But yeah, I work where I work. There's a couple of Liverpool fans there, and they were over for like flies round. Yeah, I suppose I was the shit this morning, trying to wind me up. But as I've said before, I don't care about the banter from Arsenal fans, Chelsea, whatever. Come and have a go, because we are quite critical on this channel, and we will say what we think. Don't need other people to try and wind us up. But yeah, the football's not been great. I was saying this morning when I was talking to this Liverpool fan in particular, I said Ferguson, and we shouldn't look back, but it's just the style of football thing, which is what Scholes said. Ferguson last night with 10 minutes to go against Borough would have played 2 at the back, played 8 up front, and thought, right, we're going to lose in 90 minutes or we're going to win. I'm not having half an hour of extra time, and I'm not going to penalties, because extra time always goes to penalties. It always does, 90% of the time. So yeah, we would have gone for it. But Louis van Gaal doesn't have that in his locker. I'm not Louis van Gaal out by a long way. He's not going to be here forever. He's not got anything terminal, by the way. He's just only got a 2-year contract. But I just don't like the way we play. I don't like the way we play. At times we do play okay, but we have a corner and we have to play 4 passes before we got a crossing. I used to play as a centre back, I've said, and it's so easy to defend against because United are so structured and static and take so long to put the ball in. We used to pride ourselves on quick ball into the box. He's never going to do that. So the football is boring. I can't see he's going to ever change that, and that's disappointing. I think the best we can hope for under Louis van Gaal is that somehow it makes us successful for the next 2 years, and then the next manager brings us back to a more entertaining way of playing. That's not Louis van Gaal out. I don't really like the football we play, but if we're successful, short-term gap, I want Man United to be successful.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Tal, what have you made of our football so far? Do you think obviously I think everyone thinks it's been boring, but do you see, I'm going to come back to a point after you said this about Mark. It isn't one of the points I've got down, but it's an interesting thing that I want to say. But what have you made of our play so far? And do you think, we've been talking about Rooney before, but we haven't really been creating any chances? Do you think it is down to the players, or do you think it is the play style?
There's always elements of both. It's never solely. I mean, the way I treated David Moyes when he was manager, I look back now and think I was a bit immature and a bit wrong, really, to lay the blame solely at his feet. But the style of play is too slow. There isn't enough movement. If anyone has watched the videos I've done recently, people look at it as me defending Rooney. I'm not. I'm simply saying we don't have runners from deep or wide enough. Players are dilly-dallying on the ball, and Mark's point about the corners are a prime example. It's always they think too much. You just watch highlights back and you just think, well, there's the ball, pass the ball through quickly, 1 touch, 2 touch. It's not happening. We're too slow. That's going to impact a player like Rooney. Put Martial up front, it will still impact him, because although he attempts on average 15 take-ons per game, he is not going to score goals like he did against Liverpool in every game he plays. Nobody, not even Messi or Maradona, has ever achieved that. So the team needs to play more as a unit, which is why I go back to my point about Rooney, that I want him out the team, partly because I want fans to start to see there's a bigger issue than Rooney holding us back, or Memphis holding us back, depending on who you want to throw by that. But we do need to speed up play. But what is strange is Van Gaal has publicly said this: we play too slow, we move the ball too slow, we don't run enough at teams. So he'll come out and say it, and then the team doesn't do it, which makes you think, is he hanging his own players out to dry, or actually are the players just not good enough, don't understand it, or simply refusing to do it? It's a difficult one unless you're in that dressing room or in Van Gaal's mind. But right now the football is not good enough for United.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. But one thing I just wanted to touch on, it might be a bit of a controversial subject, and I didn't talk to you about this, Mark, before the show, but I was seeing a lot, and I was speaking to a lot of people before it, and I think I touched upon it with you yesterday, actually, but I seem to feel like the mood in terms of the entire team yesterday kind of changed, like switched to, like, for the first time ever, I was actually seeing, maybe I've been blind to it, but I've been seeing people actually saying, like, Van Gaal out and, like, stuff like that. And it seems weird for a Capital One Cup game, but did yesterday change your overall, like, style of thinking? Like, I'm starting to think that, like, do you think that we will win the likes of the Premier League under Van Gaal? Because it just seems that, yes, last season he did brilliant clearing up Moyes' mess, but do you think he could take us any further, or do you think we've kind of plateaued under him, or do you think he can actually take us to that next level? Obviously, there's never going to be another Fergie again, but do you think we need a new manager to take us back to winning Premier Leagues, Champions Leagues, or do you think Van Gaal can actually achieve that at United?
It's interesting because somebody, a United fan I'm good friends with, said to me today that he's starting to feel like the Moyes era, and not suicidal, but like it's just not going to work out. And it is concerning because people say we won't turn into Liverpool, but by the time Van Gaal goes, it's going to be 3 or 4 years after Sir Alex, 2 managers. Will we be any further forward? That's 4 years is a long time not winning anything. So I do get people's concerns. What I predict is going to happen is that we may not get a win on Saturday against Crystal Palace because they haven't won in 2 games. They've got Liverpool away next week after that, so they need a result. I think they'll get it against us because we're going to be knocked for confidence. Then I expect the Louis van Gaal thing to go up to a new level. But what will happen then is we've got a run of games up till Christmas that are winnable, and we will probably win 4 of them, lose 1, draw 1, and it will buy us more time, and we'll all be going, Louis van Gaal's the right man again. And then come Christmas, it will be crashing down when we play Chelsea. And I think that is what's going to happen under Louis van Gaal. I don't think he's ever going to do enough to be sacked. But I think you're right. I think we may well have problems as to we're probably not going to win the title. I never thought we would this year. I think we're good enough to win the title. I think we should have beat Man City last week. Definitely was 2 points dropped. You know how frustrated I was. And some people were like, oh, it's Man City. But it's Man City at Old Trafford, with no Silva, with no Aguero. It's 210 minutes at Old Trafford without looking like scoring, really. I know we missed a few chances, but we should be putting them away. As I said on the previous comment, I'd be interested to see what Tel says. I think Manchester United under Louis van Gaal are probably never going to make me want to be Louis van Gaal out. I just hope we can do as best as we can under this, because I don't think the football's what we want it to be.
I think what you touched on is a very important point, which is what I was talking to my friends about earlier. I was saying that yesterday was the first time I saw people starting to turn on him, and I think the big point that is turning people against him, we've put up with the boring football for 2 seasons now, but I think after yesterday, people have already been saying, journalists have been saying it to him about Rooney, and he hasn't been listening. And I put out a tweet yesterday of what I wrote in our chat, saying that I guarantee you at half-time he's going to put Rooney on, and he's going to put Rooney on before Martial, and then we're going to end up losing on penalties with Rooney playing it. But what have you made? Do you think that Van Gaal can take us to this next level, Tel, or do you think that he's kind of plateaued? And obviously, I'm not saying that we should get rid of him, because I think if we were to get rid of him mid-season, it's completely stupid. I don't agree with that. But do you think at the end of this season we should be looking onwards, or do you think that Van Gaal can take us to that next level next season?
It's all about who, isn't it? I suppose if Pep Guardiola decides to not renew his contract at Bayern Munich. The club may be tempted, but remember, Pep Guardiola's style of football isn't too different from. It's a little more attacking, but he likes to hold on to the ball a lot as well. So we're not going to see wing play, crosses into the box as everyone's talking about. So it's who? I suppose Klopp going to Liverpool has shook a few fans. It's weird seeing a Liverpool manager that I actually like. And when he's drawn games, I've actually felt a little bit of disappointment because I like the man. And I think a few people are worried. But you've just seen, Mourinho's having a bad time at the moment. It happens. It was only 2 months ago. I did a video because people were calling for Van Gaal's head then. We then go on a decent run of games, get, have a weekend on the top of the league, and we're there or thereabouts. But we are 2 points off top. Very winnable. I think we'll do Crystal Palace this weekend. Talking to a few Palace fans today online, and they're not confident at all, which bodes well. That's with us coming. They're still not confident with the way we've been playing. Very winnable games up until Christmas, and we'll see. It really does depend, but it's a difficult one. I've been saying if we could get a couple of players, including Rooney, back into some decent form, the midfield to settle, Smalling playing at the level he is, obviously got De Gea in goal, there is more than enough of a possibility of us winning a trophy. Will we do anything crazy like doubles and trebles and European Cups? Don't think so, but I do think he'll pick up a trophy in his 3 years here. Just not the League Cup.
Yeah, definitely not. And finally, going into just a quick preview of the Palace game, what sort of team do you think we'll put out, Mark? Obviously, we made 9 changes in the middle of the game. Do you expect us to go back to the team we played against City? And do you expect, I guess a big talking point would be, do you think Rooney will start again and will he be up front?
Roscoe 1, 2, 3. Yeah, and there's a good comment from somebody today. I think it was Joshua Spence actually. He said, let's not go overboard. The team was missing certain players, and any team that's going to add Mata, Herrera, Morgan Schneider, and Schweinsteiger to it on Saturday is going to be a much better side. It was nice to see Martial put into the number 9 position. It shows that Louis van Gaal isn't totally naive and is willing to do that. I'd put Ashley Young on the left, Martial up front, Mata, Schweinsteiger, Morgan, and then have the back four of Smalling and Jones and Darmian or Valencia. I'm not first. Rojo left back, De Gea in goal, and that's a good side. Rooney nowhere near it, and I think that team could go to Palace and get something. The good thing is Fellaini played 120 minutes, so he can't play. Carrick won't play, obviously. There's a lot of players who won't play, but positives, as you said at the start, Alex. Pereira did have a good game. He did have a good game. I'm not a massive fan of Lingard. I'm glad that he's playing, but he needs to bulk out, and he runs up blind alleys a lot. He's a trier. Is he good enough? I don't know. I thought he was a 6 out of 10 yesterday. But there's 4 very good players, De Gea as well. 5 top, touching on world-class players to come back in our team. So if he doesn't play Rooney up front at number 9 and he brings them back in, I think we can win it, yeah.
That's the thing. I think if Rooney does get dropped, I don't think he will be, but if he does get dropped and then we still manage to lose, I think that Van Gaal will be in his element, because it'll be like, oh, you've all been calling for, like he said before, oh, you've been calling for Rooney to play the striker, he played the striker and he didn't do well, now what are you going to do? So now people are calling for him to get dropped. I don't personally think he will get dropped. I don't even know what's going to happen for Rooney to get dropped. I don't know what it's going to be, but what sort of team are you expecting us to put out against Palace? Are you feeling confident overall, and who do you think their danger men are going to be?
Their danger men, Zaha, Balassi, Gale. They've got Johan Kubai. Just got some really quality, fast-paced individuals. Their left back, Suarez, I think his name is, not great final ball, but they've got a lot of pace. They're gonna do what 90% of teams that have beaten us in the last 18 months have done: sit deep, let us have a lot of the ball, try and catch us on the counter. This is the type of game where we do need 2 holding midfield players away at a place like Crystal Palace. Very hard to beat under Alan Pardew. I am confident we can do it. I pretty much agree with Mark's team. Rooney needs to be on that bench. I suppose my question to anyone who's listening, yourself, Alex, as well, is if Rooney does get dropped, just say he does. I doubt he will, because this is Van Gaal. But if he does, and we played how we've been for the last 2 games without him, it's not to say Rooney isn't finished or trying to fanboy him up. But my question back would be, then where would you look for the source of blame? Because you have to admit, Rooney is that man that he's our go-to guy for blame. And if he drops out the team and we're brilliant and we win, then maybe we've got the answer. However, I've just got a feeling it's a much bigger issue than Wayne Rooney and his touch of an elephant.
You're spot on there. You're spot on there. Sorry, Alex. Let me just jump in and then you can wrap it up. You're spot on there, though, and a lot of people have said this. Louis van Gaal is getting off quite a lot in relation to the Rooney argument. Somebody even said Rooney should have professional pride. I think I put it somewhere as well, and asked to be dropped. But I mean, it was a tongue-in-cheek gesture. What professional is going to do that? You don't go to work in the morning and say, sack me, I'm rubbish. You just don't do it. You've got bills to pay, and it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, and it's not Rooney's fault if he gets picked. So I think
can I just say as well quickly, I know we're running a little bit over as well, there's a lot of people that keep, big journalists and Twitter accounts and social media people talk about this £300,000 a week. What people have to realise is that over 75% of players like Rooney's contract is based upon their market ability, the money they generate through their pictures, through their name for the club. So anyone throwing that £300,000 a week into the mix is being a little bit naive and doesn't understand the commerciality of football. It's a nonsense in the argument, because that 300 grand a week isn't about his playing ability. It's about how much money the name generates for the club, because we'd be a much poorer entity without Wayne Rooney at Manchester United. Sorry, I had to say that.
It's all right. I think we're going to wrap up there, Alex, are we?
Yeah. At the end of the day, I couldn't care less about how much money he earns, because I think anyone in the same position, when they're providing money for their family, they would take the same sort of money at the end of the day. So, thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll be back, obviously, with our end of match preview for end of match review after the Crystal Palace game, and then obviously the normal Sunday show. So, thanks for everyone for watching, and like the channel and subscribe. Thanks a lot. Come on, United.
Tel, just want to give you a shout out for yourself.
Oh, yes, cool. Terry Fleurs from the Devil's Terrace, formerly the Devil's Bus, formerly Red Army TV. People keep making me change my name. It's the commerciality of the super fans that we now are. Give it a little watch. I normally sit in my car talking a bit of dribble nonsense or obvious delusions. Cheers.
Thanks, Tel. Thanks for coming on. Enjoyed that. And I think, what do I want to end on? Yeah, very quickly. I know I keep saying this, but Saturday night at 8 o'clock is the deadline. We are being pushed really, really close by a candidate that I've looked at their website, and to be honest, I don't even know why they're getting so many votes. They've obviously, they've got something rigged, because they just don't compete compared to two of the other candidates. But please vote for us. Second paragraph in the video description, Football Blogging Awards. Tweet the link or vote through the website, but please do. We deserve to win because it's your channel. It's come so long and so far in a year, and if you don't vote, we won't win. If you do vote, we'll batter it, because we've got so many viewers watching. So please do vote for us. If you're on Twitter, it'll take you 2 seconds, and I know I'm really ramming this home, but it'd be so good to win at the Hotel Football, and it will really put a few noses out of joint, because there's going to be some big channels there who don't like us, and be able to stand up and say this is for the fans and we don't do it for the money will be a massive statement. And the bigger we get, the bigger channels like Tales get, the bigger voice you have, because it's not about the money for us. It really is just, like I said, it started a year ago with 3 of us having a chat about football on a Sunday night, and I think 10 of you watched, and some of you are still involved now, and it gets bigger and bigger, and your voice gets louder and louder. So please get involved and please vote. Be brilliant. Thanks everyone for watching. Really enjoyed it tonight. Really good debate, and as we promised, it was never going to be personal or anything like that. It's just passionate fans that binds us, Manchester United. It's United Stand, it is your channel. See you live straight after the game on Saturday, and then we're live on Sunday at 9 o'clock.